Today's AskReddit post. What do you think shouldn't be illegal? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. Sleeping in your car instead of driving drunk. To the people responding, it's called APC or actual physical control in most states. You cannot have keys to the vehicle you're sleeping in anywhere on or around you. Like, if they search the car and find the keys in the trunk, jail. Pocket, jail. Floorboard, jail. Threw them in the woods in an easy to find place, jail. Beside this, they can still take you to jail for public intox. It's best to just not be drunk around a vehicle at all. Actual physical control is so bullshit. If you sleep on the sidewalk right next to your car, are you in actual physical control? You could easily take the keys out of your pocket and drive it away. If you are standing in the sidewalk right next to your car, you could do the same. Just wait until police arrest someone who's drunk in their own home because their car was in their driveway. I had to take a driving class a few years back after being in a very minor accident. The instructor said she's had someone in class once who had gotten a DUI. He was in his driveway, working on his car. It was up on blocks, no wheels attached. Cop rolled by, saw him take a sip of beer, and then reach into the car to turn it on to see if it would start. Boom. Ticket for drunk driving. Pirating video games which are no longer being sold in retail. If I want to get my ass handed to me in Battletoads, I shouldn't have to go to 20 different used game stores to pay $200 for a copy of the game and a Nintendo system. In a similar vein, people setting up servers for games that have long since been taken down and have developers sitting on code they refuse to release or do anything with. Like with City of Heroes. Totally get why private servers would be illegal if the game is still in operation and earning money, but there are a ton of old online games that will fade into obscurity when there's maybe a 100 or so fans that would love a chance to quietly play the game again. Like Wildster and stuff. As long as the person running the server isn't trying to profit off of it, I don't see what the big deal is for like 50 people to be logged into a small private server enjoying a game that they loved. I have so much respect for the guy that not only remade Toontown but then worked to make a remastered sequel to Toontown and made the microtransactions free. Club Penguin Online could never. Wasn't that run by a bunch of peders? Let's say someone has $20 and wants their wiener touched. Someone else needs $20 and is willing to touch a wiener, assuming they are both consenting adults. I don't see a problem here. Making it legal gets rid of the pimp's power, which is the whole problem. Think of all the influencers who would jump at this. Making it legal has the potential for getting rid of pimps. There's also the possibility of some unsavory stuff going on, except now it looks legal looking and from the outside. Like the way you keep non-sexual human trafficking at a minimum is by requiring I-9s, having labor laws, auditing companies, etc. If prostitution is made legal without any additional regulation or oversight, you could end up with criminals who look like they're just doing something that is now legal. We're talking about a situation where sometimes the victims don't even realize they're being trafficked just because the abusers have basically just minbucked them to such a degree that they don't see things that way. The irrational thing is making it illegal though. I'd agree. I'm just saying there needs to be some oversight for this sort of thing. I'm basically just responding to making it legal gets rid of pimp's part, since that's a bit too simplistic an idea for what the problem actually calls for. So the solution is legal but regulated, controlled like literally any other service or sold good? Not trying to shit on you, just pointing out how reasonable this would be. If you join the military at 18 and have a chance to see combat, you should have access to everything a 21-year-old has. It doesn't make any sense that 18 is old enough to die for your country or see your friends die yet too young to have a beer. The age of adulthood should just be consistent across the board. I don't personally care whether it's 18, 21 or somewhere in between. Just make it all the same age. If you're old enough to be shipped off to war, be charged for a crime as an adult and put yourself tens of thousands of dollars in debt, then you're old enough to drink, smoke, vote, buy a gun, etc. Be charged for a crime as an adult. Given how often minors are tried as adults in this country, that'd set a pretty interesting precedent. pumping my own gas in New Jersey. I have seen the way people from NJ drive and I think it's okay to keep something that dangerous away from them. I had to completely relearn how to drive the first time I was in Jersey for a few days. It's absolutely mad. I ride a motorcycle and live in Philly. Going down the shore I feel like putting on a World War II era kamikaze headband and lighting incense before I leave. My wife had to guide me and explain the subtle nuances to driving in her home state. Why is everyone going 90 inches? Just go 95, cops won't bother you. Why did everyone drop to 20 when it started to sprinkle? It's weathering out. Just to the speed limit. Whistleblowing on the government. Even if it was legal you would still probably end up dead in a hotel room 3 weeks later. Now you won't get killed, but the backlash would be so bad you'd be depressed to the point of committing suicide in a room with a broken window and 5 gunshot wounds to the head. Now it's stuffed into a sports bag that you obviously climbed inside and put a padlock on from the outside while in the bag. Assisted suicide. Given proper process. Prostitution. The idea that a person cannot commoditize their own body for profit as they see fit implies that a person does not own their own body. The government does. Especially because criminalizing sex work prevents sex workers from coming forwards about sexual abuse or rape that they might have endured, which they are statistically more vulnerable to. Decriminalizing sex work means safety for sex workers. I'm not trying to be mean, but why use a word like rape and then censor it? Who is benefiting being protected by an asterisk? He clearly intended to say rope. Handling a salmon suspiciously. What, like fish Jenga? Salmonella bust through door. No, it's okay. I'm actually a hedgehog. Oh well, okay then, carry on. Legalization of all drugs, including heroin. Switzerland had a heroin epidemic a decade and a bit ago and legalized heroin, providing it for free to all addicts who signed up. All you had to do was sign up, and you'd be given the drug to consume on the premises in a safe area. Because the drug was dosed properly and the facility was supervised, there was less ODs. Because it was free, there was less crime of people mugging, robbing to fund their addiction. Because the drug was pure, the gangs were crippled because nobody wanted to buy shit heroin when the best heroin was available for free, no questions asked. And X200B. There is always therapy available for the addicts on site. If they say they want to quit, they are helped to quit. If they choose to live their life as an addict, the facility enables them to balance their work life with the addiction. The rates of heroin use have plummeted in Switzerland, as has drug-related crime. Legalize all drugs. Edit. Spelling. Drugs should be legal. I'm annoyed with the way they are handling the opioid problem. It's so much more difficult for pain patients to get their medicine. Isn't it better for someone to get this drug straight from a pharmacy than off the streets? Street stuff is not pure and can result in overdosing. People also end up on heroin because they can't find the pills. People who are addicted should get help weaning off of the drugs. Drinking in public open container laws. They don't really do anything. Further, there are already laws to regulate behavior in public which can be used to curtail any potential unwanted behavior resulting from it. Seems to be one of those things that's only illegal in America. Drugs. Although I don't think any hard drug should be legal either, I'd recommend everyone look into Portugal's drug decriminalization and the great results they've seen so far. Removing those labels from mattresses. I have a friend of a friend who is still in solitary confinement after removing the label from his futon he bought at mattress discounters 15 years ago. They raided his house almost immediately. I hear they make the sound of the tear purposely loud to tip off the mattress authorities. I heard that after pedophiles, mattress label tearers are dealt with the most severely by their fellow inmates. I find it crazy that jaywalking is illegal in the US, or at least some of it. We don't even have a word for it here, because it's not even a concept. It is illegal, yes, but in my experience the most that will happen is a cop yelling, "Use the crosswalk," at you. I was in Los Angeles and a cop yelled at a couple who were jaywalking, called them both back and wrote them both up a ticket. Watch the whole thing. including the dude angrily deny they were jaywalking and saying they shouldn't be given a ticket. Don't know how much it was for, but he was furious. Jaywalking and crosswalks in LA are a different breed. Even if you use the crosswalk, sometimes you aren't safe. If you are willing to walk the streets, you might as well jaywalk because you are taking your life in your own hands. Duels with sword. Stops at first wound. Share a pint afterwards. I would probably lose, but hey, swords and beers. With real swords, death is always going to be an option. And if death is on the table, somebody is going to use it to enable murder for hire scenarios. If you want to bring back duels, find something embarrassing and or painful but non-lethal. Duel with dildos covered in pepper juice or something. Tomfoolery with edged weapons is never a good idea. Ems has an old saying about knife fights. The loser dies in the street, the winner dies in the ambulance. One of the most helpful videos I've ever seen was a video made by a Navy SEAL called How to Win a Knife Fight, and it's just a guy sprinting away at full speed. Nobody wins a knife fight. When you can't run, it's just like fighting off a big dog. Choose which arm you're willing to sacrifice and hope the pointy bit gets stuck on it. Being topless as a woman. It's not fair that it's only legal for men. For what it's worth, women are allowed to go topless in quite a few states. In other areas it's not illegal because it's not a standard ordinance for towns. It only gets added if someone is a dick about it. Source: Oak Island. NC was a topless beach until the early 2000s, I think. Just if you sunbathed topless near family groups, you were politely asked to move to the end of the island where it was more private. No fine, just an officer politely asking. Then two college girls tried to make a deal out of it, right next to a group of families with children. Refused to leave. Made a huge fuss. Got on the news. Bam. Illegal. Just if you sunbathed topless near family groups, you were politely asked to move to the end of the island where it was more private, which never should have been allowed. There's nothing inherently bad about breasts, and the families should have been required to get over their inhibitions. I know that's easy to say and tough to do, and even tougher even to acknowledge it's the correct thing to do if you happen to believe breasts are shameful, taboo, whatever. But it's the way it should have been handled. I'll disagree with this. Just on the level of respecting each other's boundaries. Being topless or fully nude shouldn't be a crime in and of itself. But respecting the boundaries of family groups nearby is simply being polite. No different than me not smoking in someone's face. Trying to get away from people so they wouldn't be bothered by my cigarette. I'll bet there were several guys sunbathing topless at the family end of the beach who weren't asked to move. It should be the same standards for both genders. Psilocybin. Shit is more effective than any prescribed antidepressant that I have ever taken. Yet people can't see that because it's got the stigma of a drug. To be fair, people consume legal drugs already, caffeine being one of the biggest. Thinking Xi Jinping looks like Winnie the Pooh. Dude, it is hard to not think in that way. Way to go. Now you can never travel to China. That's a bad thing. Wearing clothes or makeup that show off women's beauty. Interaction with men and other similar bans in Saudi Arabia. All these male-dominating laws and undermining the rights of women are just frustrating to witness. If you're in Saudi Arabia, are you sure you want to be making this comment? Just make sure you stay safe. Petting dogs. It's not illegal. I just agree that it shouldn't be. Defending yourself from the police if you are later found to have not been at fault for any crime. Uumi v State. 315 GA. App. 656. 2012. You are allowed to resist an unreasonable arrest, but it is not recommended to do so. Remember, the police arresting you believe it's a good arrest, so they are going to use force if need be. Just battle it out on the courthouse with lawyers, not in the streets with bullets. But Americans have guns. No money for lawyers and out of control police. It seems your suggestion is impractical, and shooting back at police who probably have you outgunned is. If we can't fight back on the street or in the courtroom, we're just ducked. Cannabis. It is silly to prohibit a plant with fairly widely accepted medical benefits. That said, I don't believe it is a 100% harmless miracle drug, but still. Moonshine also. You can make beer and wine at home, why not whiskey? I think it has to do with the process of doing it. With beer and wine, if you duck up you have a bunch of nasty water. If you duck up moonshine, you obliterate everything in the surrounding area because the distiller, I think that's what it's called, explodes if you're not careful. Also, ethanol isn't the only thing in the process. Methanol is, and it has a similar evaporation. The concentrating of the alcohol can easily bring THCS to dangerous levels. It's a very delicate process. Not to mention wrong material vessels can leach into the drink, adding more health issues. Drugs. People who want to use them anyway, legal or not. And why should you be punished for harming your own health? Banning drugs pushes them to the black market, where they are traded by unsavory types who cut up your drugs with potentially more toxic substances, who don't mind killing competitors, etc. And they don't pay taxes. If drugs were legal, less crime, more tax income for the government. Why should you be punished for harming your own health? I live in a country with public health care, so one person's irresponsibility becomes everyone else's problem. It's kind of the same logic why it's illegal to ride a bike without a helmet here. The only way it would make sense for drugs to be legal is if they were taxed up the wazoo. I'm talking like 70% or more, along with things like alcohol and nicotine and maybe sugar. In a perfect world, you're right. That is the reasoning behind it. But I think the big thing here is that it doesn't matter if it's illegal or not. The public healthcare will have to deal with it because people who want drugs get drugs. Legalize it. Tax the duck out if it. Start treating it as a public health issue instead of a criminal one, and the burden on society and healthcare will reduce with time. And you'll have the drug tax money to help finance the healthcare, which you don't have now. Camping in nature is prohibited in other than specific camping places in my country. I don't know about your specific area, but a lot of the times that is to prevent excessive damage that is created by people setting up camping sites. I used to hate that law, but then I realized that the US has minimal preserved wildlife compared to countries with massive amounts of forests and meadows like Sweden, which has the freedom to roam law. Alamance written. If we had the same law, it would be completely trashed and riddled with the homeless. Euthanasia. Maybe with a mandatory psychiatric counseling first. I don't give a duck what country I was born into. I didn't have that choice. But taking away my right to tap out when I want? Fuck the duck off, you power hungry cunts. I apologize profusely for my appalling language. Good day to you all. Doping in sports. Like duck it. Let's see how fast can humans really run. There is an argument. It's been years and I really can't Google right now. For having sports that are only of people doped. How strong, fast, agile, etc. can we become? I'd watch that. Olympics with cheat codes enabled. Definitely would be at the athlete's detriment, but it'd be so damn entertaining. Short barreled rifles. It's like a normal rifle except it's short, which means it's less accurate, has lower muzzle energy, is loud as duck and makes a blinding fireball. Why I have to pay $200 and jump through hoops to get all those downgrades, you'll never know. Supposedly its cause less than a 16-inch barrel is considered concealable. Right. Where am I gonna put an 8-pound pipe that's 25 inches long in total? Almost all laws towards short-barreled rifles make no sense when you look at most semi-automatic pistols. Most gun laws were written to prevent poor people from owning guns, which in reality means they were written to create a black market and fill prison cells with poor people. Does it harm someone else? Does it steal from someone else? If your answer to both is no, then it should not be illegal. TBH, I would say could on the first one, since drunk driving, for example, doesn't have a victim until a crash. Does it have a significant risk of harming someone else? Well, I am German and as far as I know it's illegal to carry a pillow with you since it's considered a passive weapon. Schutzwaffe. For some odd reason, you can even get sent to prison for up to a year if you still do so. Sure, It's possible to hit people with a pillow, but same goes for every other object, so what makes pillows so dangerous? By that logic, no more carrying anything. Anything can be a weapon if you throw it hard enough. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.